Come on, ladsy. Come on, boys.
Roy Keane led the players into the second phase just hours after putting pen to paper on a new contract.
Well, I remember it was the worst preparation I ever had for a match. We reported like 3 hours before the match, and I only reported about an hour and a half before the kick-off, and I had nothing to eat, and we'd eventually sorted the contract out. So regarding preparation for a game, it was disgraceful really. From my own point of view, I should have walked away and I should have sorted out the following week.
Neville towards Solskjaer, headed down by Carboni. It's Keane. It had to be Roy Keane.
I scored, but I didn't play particularly well because I didn't feel right physically, because I hadn't eaten all day and I had other things on my mind regarding the contract. So you learn from your mistakes, and as much as everyone was delighted that was sorted out, I was quite angry with myself really.
Coventry City begin the new season with a home game against Ipswich Town. Ipswich beginning their first full season under the tutelage of Roy Keane. And big things expected from the Suffolk club this season. Ipswich have yet another corner. This time it's headed clear as far as the edge of the box. He'll be sent back in with interest now that... And it's headed off the line this time. This time the corner goes deep. And this time it goes onto the roof of the net. Well, how many chances are Ipswich Town going to need to score the equaliser here? Roy Keane will doubtless bemoan his side's finishing if they fail to take anything from this game. It's the final whistle. Coventry City begin the 2009-10 campaign.
Shrewsbury and Ipswich served up one of the games of the night, and the visitors' Connor Wickham gave us a glimpse of his huge potential. The 16-year-old, Ipswich's youngest ever player, hit a brace, including this 11th minute opener. 2 divisions lower than their rivals, Shrewsbury were far from intimidated, and within 7 minutes they were level. Jake Robinson applying the final touch to a Kevin McIntyre cross. Then on 24 minutes, an early goal of the season candidate. Just look at this from Shrewsbury's Dave Hibbert. Shades of the great Matthew Le Tissier in his prime. Just past the half hour, the Tractor Boys were level. Alan Quinn firing in a free kick from the edge of the box. And more to come in the second half, and it's that boy again, Connor Wickham with his second. The 6'3" teenager clearly out to make a name for himself. But the Shrews weren't finished, and another fine strike to level 16 minutes from time. Shane Cansdell Sheriff laying down the law with this one. Sadly for Shrewsbury, spot kicks sealed their doom. Misses from Jake Robinson and skipper Graham Coughlin meant Ipswich went through 4-2 on penalties after a night of terrific entertainment.
But it's right. Turned towards goal by Wickham. And just wide. Leicester throwing everything they can in the way of this ball. Those teams battling for possession. Priskin gets a free kick. This could just be the last chance of note in this match. It is Damien Delaney! Roy, was that a match where both teams effectively cancelled each other out?
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, particularly I think the first half. Having said that, I think Leicester probably had the better chances, but it was, I suppose, a typical tough championship game where, as you said, we cancelled each other out, and I'm sure the fans will go home disappointed not to see any goals, but we'll have to take the positives in terms of taking a clean sheet and a point.
The winner came just after the hour. Ipswich failed to clear their lines, and George Boyd made them pay with his 3rd goal of the campaign. A kickstart for Peterborough's season, but Ipswich just can't buy a win.
Roy Keane's Ipswich searching for a first league win of the season when they face Middlesbrough at the Riverside Stadium. Borough ahead after 16 minutes. They might still be winless, but Ipswich had more attempts on goal than any other team in the division before this game. The problem has been the finishing. Alex Bruce had the last of these attempts. Ipswich had won penalties in their previous 3 games. It was 4 in a row when Johnson fouled John Walters. This the first of the four cleanly converted. Walters scoring, but Ipswich and Keane now second bottom of the Championship.
Is the pressure starting to mount on Roy Keane? Promotion favourites at the start of the season, Ipswich have made their worst start to a league campaign in 40 years. Keane's inability to name a settled back four once again contributed to Town's downfall early on. Neither Richard Wright or Damien Delaney could make a clearance, gifting Wade Fairhurst the easiest of finishes. Keane's former Manchester United teammates would ultimately ruin his afternoon. Quinton Fortune arrived from Bolton in the summer and he rolled back the years with an exceptional strike that continued Doncaster's unbeaten home record. The first away point for Ipswich. Keane turned around Sunderland from a similar situation. He'll have to do the same again this season. The sentiment is clear to see, as anxious Ipswich fans arrived at Portman Road still waiting for their team's first league win of the season. Swansea were undefeated in 5 going into this one, and less than 7 minutes had been played when Angel Rangel sent Craig Beattie through. Ipswich had the better of the play and were unfortunate not to get a precious first win, John Walters going close. But when you're bottom of the league, luck doesn't tend to go your way.
For all of Roy Keane's well-documented woes, Derby's Nigel Clough arguably had the greater problems for this match. 16 players either sick or injured and only 5 fit for the bench. Their weakness exploited midway through the second half by David Wright. The defender, who only scored once in the whole of last season, was an unlikely hero for Ipswich, who at the 15th attempt had a sniff of that first league win. It was nerve-wracking. Paul Dickoff demonstrated Derby's desire to avoid a third straight defeat, with the Rams themselves dangerously close to the drop zone. And Ipswich do have a habit of folding in the final minute, so Portman Road was roaring as Thomas Priscombe raced clear, intent on making the point safe. Stephen Bywater kept the celebrations on hold, but not for long.
Roy Keane's Ipswich travelled to Bristol City on the back of a 7-game unbeaten run. Not a bad way to respond after such a woeful start to the season. Luckily for them, he couldn't make the most. The Tractor Boys survived and extend their unbeaten run. Blackpool arrived at Portman Road full of confidence after their 3-0 win at Middlesbrough in midweek, but they were caught napping in the very first minute when Jonathan Stead struck, and oh so sweetly. Stead also had a part to play in the second, exchanging passes with Jack Colback, who sprung the offside trap. The 20-year-old is on loan from Sunderland, and this isn't bad composure for a youngster. 2-0 at half-time. It could have been 3-0 after the interval. Superb work by Grant Ledbetter, but Jonathan Walters fluffed his lines. Blackpool started the day in 6th and weren't going to give up their playoff spot easily. Ian Evatt getting them back in the game on 67 minutes. Having drawn 7 out of their last 9, Ipswich fans must have feared they'd surrender a winning position again, but Gareth McCauley restored the home side's 2-goal cushion. Ipswich are out of the drop zone.
We ended up getting 2 players we were after. We tried for one more, it didn't quite happen, but yeah, I'm really delighted with obviously getting Murph and David Healy, and 2 lads I've worked with previously, and I think it was certainly an area of the pitch we need improvement on.
Roy Keane brought Daryl Murphy in from his former club Sunderland in the transfer window, and it didn't take long for Murphy to net his first goal for 2 years. But Ipswich are well known for their draws, 14 already this season, and 1 goal was unlikely to be enough.
Overall, our performance, I thought it wasn't bad, but as you said, another draw, and it's certainly not taking us anywhere fast.
The Ipswich supporters are showing patience, though there's no doubt that they would have hoped that Roy Keane would have guided them to a position higher in the table than they currently are. Grant Ledbetter's corner kick wasn't dealt with by Peterborough keeper Joe Lewis, and that's 3 in 3 games now for Daryl Murphy since joining on loan from Sunderland. Now Murphy was getting greedy. He went nearly 2 years without scoring before this recent hot spell. But try as he might, he couldn't make it 2-0 to Ipswich. A kick. A welcome win this, but they'll need a few more. 9 points short of a safe spot is better, but still worrying for Peterborough.
Criminal, really, when you're 1-0 up away from home and you start the second half, concede after, 1 or 2 minutes, and, you know, the second half performance certainly wasn't good enough. 2 set pieces, and... you know, we made it very hard for ourselves when really we were in a winning position.
Key moment, 1 minute into the 30 seconds into the second half, really bad goal all round.
Crazy, from our kick-off. From our kick-off, we got back to our centre-half, who who doesn't clear it well enough, then we dive in and we give a silly free kick away. Then we don't defend a set piece.
What do you do about that in training?
Well, you keep working on it. You keep asking the players to take responsibility. 2 of the goals were set pieces, so there are areas certainly we can improve on.
Roy Keane's Ipswich are looking for their first back-to-back league wins of the season when they hosted Scunthorpe, who'd beaten Ipswich just once in their history, and they were on the back foot in the first half here. Pablo Cunyago clipping the Irons' woodwork. For himself, a day to remember. His first league goal takes Town 6 points clear of their relegation rivals.
With 33 league draws between them, the odds were definitely on a point apiece when Swansea hosted Ipswich. Both teams were looking to bounce back from midweek defeats, in particular Paulo Sousa's men. 5 matches without a win for Sousa and Swansea, whose playoff place is far from secure.